I would say that total solar eclipses are kind of like chocolate chip cookies or Pringles. You can't just have one. Hello, my name's Christina Della Rosa with the Marie Drake Planetarium. I'd like to welcome you to our first YouTube video on our new YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about total solar eclipses, and we picked this topic because next month, December, is going to be one in South America. And also there was the Great American Total Solar Eclipse in 2017. And if you're watching this, you're probably one of the millions of people who went to a lot of effort to go and experience that. And it was incredibly well covered by astronomers and the media. So I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Steve.
Thank you, Christina. I'm Steve Kocsis. I'm on the board of the Marie Drake Planetarium, and we're very excited about presenting a show, a short video on total solar eclipses.
First of all, what is a total solar eclipse?
Well, we have a solar eclipse when the Earth, Moon, and Sun are lined up, collinear, and the Moon is between the Earth and the Sun, and that would be the new moon phase. A total solar eclipse is always during new moon. And what happens is that there's a shadow projected from the Moon to the Earth, and this shadow is 250,000 miles long, and when it hits the Earth's surface, it's only about 70 miles wide. And that is where you would see totality, is under that 70-mile wide shadow.
Isn't there something about the size of the moon that makes this possible for us on Earth?
It turns out that the sun is 400 times larger than the moon, but it is also 400 times further away from us than the moon. So what that causes is that the sun and the moon have the same size in the sky, the same angular size, 1/2 a degree of arc. And so the moon completely, totally, perfectly covers the sun. And so that's why when it covers the sun, the stars, planets come out, and we can see the solar corona and the photosphere and flares.
So if the moon wasn't the size that it was in relation to the sun, we wouldn't have a total solar eclipse.
Exactly. If the moon was even 1 Earth diameter further away than it is, or 1 Earth diameter closer to us than it is, then we would not get that perfect covering of the moon to the sun and get what we perceive as totality. So we're in the perfect time to see a total solar eclipse now.
And how long can they be? It's quite variable, I believe.
Yes, at totality, we can have a maximum time of 7 minutes, or we can have a total eclipse that just lasts a few seconds. And I have actually seen both. I've been to a total solar eclipse in India that lasted about 40 seconds, and I've been to a total solar eclipse in the tip of Baja in Mexico that lasted 7 minutes. So I've seen the extreme of what's possible for a total solar eclipse.
And those times you're talking about, that is what we would call totality.
Totality is totally different from any partial phase. Even when the sun is 99% covered by the moon, it's still so bright that it's not safe to look at. In fact, all the partial phases, there's ultraviolet energy that can damage your eyes. But once it goes total, once the moon totally covers the sun, it is safe to look at totality, and totality is very difficult to put into words. It's the realm of the senses. The temperature drops, animals are affected, and people are exhilarated. You're drawn out of yourself by the experience. It's a classic example of what's called the sense of awe to experience a total solar eclipse.
When I see a total solar eclipse, I enjoy it. I'm not as passionate as you are, Steve, but one thing I do also enjoy is just the experience of seeing how people enjoy this communal event, seeing what kind of t-shirts they have, all the paraphernalia related to the eclipse, the things that people wear to kind of shade their eyes and get adapted to darker light, and just all the fun, humor, and enjoyment that goes around this total solar eclipse. But what makes this total solar eclipse special to you? You've mentioned some things already, but is there anything else?
Let me just say the 2017 August eclipse, which is called the Great American Eclipse, was viewed by millions of Americans. And the five of us for Juneau, we were at the Warm Springs Indian Reservation just north of Bend, Oregon. And what I remember is just before the shadow covered us where we were, the shadow's moving around 2,000 miles an hour, Mount Jefferson disappeared. And Mount Jefferson, the snow-covered mountain in the Cascades of Oregon, it disappeared like a David Copperfield trek because the shadow covered it. And 10 seconds after Mount Jefferson disappeared, I could see the shadow approaching us like a thunderstorm on the horizon. It covered us where we were. And just like in a planetarium, the stars and the planets came on. And you could see the corona of the sun. And the corona was dynamic. It was changing. You could see flares, bright crimson flares along the limb, the silhouette of the now covered sun, and everyone was affected by it. Everyone was impacted. People, you're even if you have an intellectual understanding of what's going on, you're drawn out of yourself.
The eclipse next month in December, we're not going to be able to see even a partial total solar eclipse here in the U.S., right?
Yeah, the December 14, 2020 total solar eclipse is totally in the South Pacific. All the partial phases and totality is all in the South Pacific. And that's one issue with these total solar eclipses. It's a shadow that's 250,000 miles long, projected from the moon to the Earth. And when the shadow touches the Earth's surface, it's only around 70 miles wide. And it's moving 2,000 miles an hour. So you have to situate yourself to be under that shadow to experience totality. And let me just emphasize again, totality is totally different from any partial phase. You really want to be under that shadow to experience the total solar eclipse.
And how many have you experienced, Steve?
I'm into 9 total solar eclipses, and that totals more than 30 minutes under the moon's shadow. The most memorable one I've been to is probably the longest one, which was July 11th, 91 in Todos Santos, and that was the current Saros cycle that has the longest lived eclipses. That was 7 minutes long.
Wow.
And we could see the shadow approaching us over the ocean. We were on a hill, and we could see the shadow coming at us 2,000 miles an hour at us from over the Pacific Ocean.
I also recommend that when you do experience a total solar eclipse, you don't try to take any pictures, just lay back and just enjoy the experience, and then watch the professional photography that's been done afterwards. So I hope you all will mark your calendar for 2024 and figure out if you're going to be able to get to some place in the United States to see it. And is there anything else you want to say, Steve?
Just that I agree with what you said, Christina. And if you're going to have something on your bucket list, the total solar eclipse is something definitely on your bucket list. So April 2024 is the next Great American Eclipse. I forget exactly, but I think it's around 3 minutes.
Okay, I'd like to sign off now, and I'll see you at the next eclipse, Steve.
Thank you, Christina.
Bye.